Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. All right.
True.
There's quite a few slides. We're going to be going through a lot of information here tonight. We're going to try to record, and put this presentation on the internet so you can go to it and read over things a little more carefully. Because in Trumbull County in the last 4 years, we've had a lot going on, and I've tried to put everything, all the disasters basically here. So 1 hour does not cover the number of disasters we've had, so I'll give you the best of the best. Okay, our first experience with oil and gas regulation. Tom Tomastic was the director of Underground Injection Control, a division of oil and gas, a division of the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, the state regulators of the oil and gas industry. Remember the Youngstown earthquakes? Tom Tomastic denied any correlation between the earthquakes at the Ben Lupo injection well in Youngstown 9 times. It took the governor to close down that injection well and impose a 7-mile injection-free area from that well. Tom Tomastic now works in Oklahoma as an earthquake expert. Trumbull County shale gas pad number 1. This is the first experience Trumbull County's had with a shale gas pad. It's called Woolman Well. It's in Vienna. The company is CNX LLC. They are owned, actually Consol. CNX is Consol, and they're owned by BP. Okay, construction began. The road to the well was built. They put 2 large pits. 2 large pits were dug in line. Now note the mobile home park, downwind and in close proximity to that where they're going to put this frack pad. This is all going to happen. As it turns out, CNX chose to use road gravel that was not allowed for road use. It was far too alkaline. A heavy rain ran down the new road, this road here, and into a stream, crossing Warner Road here, and into this pond, which is the fishing pond for Brookfield Acres Mobile Home Park. Again, notice how close it is to the pond. The result was a dead pond. Everything in that pond died. Well, I guess the geese went away. But anything that couldn't get away died. Okay, CNX has given up on this location. The pits have been removed. CNX moved their operation to the Cato Well in North Jackson. I believe there's a much larger pond out there.
Just write that one too.
And here we have the Cato Shale Gas Pad. This is a CNX console. It is, although it's in Mahoning County, this pad is in the watershed of Meander Reservoir, and that water serves a lot of Trumbull County people, so that's why I found it really necessary to include it in this talk tonight. Believe it or not, upon discovery of this well, I called Kay Amy at the OEPA office in Brecksville. Kay is responsible for the swamp area. Kay did not know there was a shale gas pad in the swamp area and said she would check into it. Kay called me back and said that everything is okay. Tom Tomastic and ODNR have been working on his permit for over a year now. Tom Tomastic, what could possibly go wrong? Please note this frack pad, this frack pad is less than 500 feet from a direct tributary to our Meander Reservoir. Right here, here's the creek, goes to the reservoir, and there's the frack pad. Wow. This one did get built. Locally, CNX has a careless record when it comes to operating upstream of a pond. Now factor in Tom Tomastic. What could possibly go wrong? Many people wrote their electeds about this. Many people actually went to the site to protest this. Not enough. It seems most people either could care less about their water supply, or maybe they read the newspaper account that reported nothing new here. What could possibly go wrong? Here's the Cato well, or again, we're talking about Cato well, but the casing at that well is going to be cemented by a company called Halliburton. Remember that? Remember the Halliburton's, the fine Halliburton cement job, the deep well horizon? It's another fine BP problem. So we're talking Halliburton, BP, and Tom Tomastic. What could possibly go wrong? Result, 2 cracked casings. Actually, the mud pumps weren't operating properly. The gauges read 0, and the operators at Halliburton decided to go in and pump anyway. They found that the burst pressure on the casing was like 2,110, so they know they were over that. But that's, I guess we're dealing with experience here. And they say Ohio men don't have the experience and know how to do this job. Oh, yeah, right. Not that we want to. Shortly after finding the rig in Meanders watershed, I happened upon this article. I'll tell you what. There were Washington County families that were suing over fracking and water testing. The 182-page lawsuit filed Friday in Washington County Common Pleas Court alleges that Range Resources and 2 commercial water testing laboratories, Microvac Labs Incorporated and Test America, conspired to produce fraudulent test results that misrepresented the family's well water as good and contributed to their exposure to hazardous chemicals and a multitude of health problems. Now, this was back in 2012. You don't suppose the companies that came here would be so brazen to do this, do you? Well, guess what? All pre-drill water testing by CNX at the Woolman well pad in Vienna were performed by Microvac Labs. The Kibler well in Lordstown, operated by Halcon, used Test America. Okay, CNX at the Cato well in North Jackson used Microvac Labs. ND, I want to just point this out on here. You'll find some NDs. Okay, that means not detected, but actually it means not detected at or above the reporting limit, which is this RL number here. This will make sense in a minute. Just note that some methane is much higher than that limit, and here it's 177, and some of these are much larger. But here's what's important to notice. All the tests under the reporting limit were listed as ND, except methane, okay? In other words, if it's under the reporting limit, which, let's go to methane here, it's right here, the reporting limit is 5.0, okay? Everything else they tested, if it was under that limit, they put ND, except methane. See, the result here is 2.5. That should say ND, but because, and it's basically happened to every water sample that they tested. And why is that good for the oil and gas industry? Simply because now every sample they tested has a pre-existing condition of methane, which is the #1 cause of contamination from the old wells. So these people go to court, they have a pre-existing condition, they're going to lose, and it's right there. They've proven the pre-existing condition. Here's a total discovery. In both Trumbull and Mahoning counties, CNX used Microvac Labs 100% of the time. Halcon used Test America 100% of the time. Is that a coincidence? Just one point to make. When all this was going on, I went to I went to the trustees everybody's work. I went to the county commissioners, both Trumbull and County, and told them about this and said that maybe they had a lot to look into it, and I don't think anything happened. So I don't know if it's still going on or not, but we are aware of it. Now we're going to talk about the Kibler Shale Gas Pad in Lordstown. Say hello to Halcon. From the road, this shale gas well looks safe enough, inasmuch as it seems to be far from people. Trumbull County gets its first shale gas pad that will actually be drilled. Sunny days and good jobs lie ahead. Let's not miss this coincidence. The first shale gas pad CNX sought to permit was in Vienna, just upwind of Brookfield Gardens Mobile Home Park. The first shale gas pad Halcon sought was in Lordstown, just upwind of Westwood Lake Mobile Home Park. I don't think it's a coincidence. And both companies are owned by BP. Both companies are LLCs, limited liability companies. So if something's going to go wrong, you probably ought to send one of those in. First, Halcon built the road to the pad area. I hope they used the correct route. Then they brought in the rig and drilled. Residents complained of noise from the rig vibrating in their homes. The work lights had shone into the park 24/7. Even the geese were confused, flying day and night. You can see how close this rig is to this park and to the people. Step 2, the frack job. Before the diesel frack pumpers were brought in, the residents asked their elected officials to request modern electric or natural gas frack pumps instead of the diesels. These pumps burn 500 gallons of diesel fuel per hour, 24/7 for up to 2 weeks for the frack. Diesel exhaust in this amount should be avoided. Well, it should be avoided a lot. I drive a diesel, and believe me, you don't want that stuff, but let alone to have 500 gallons of it burning an hour 24/7 for 2 weeks, 500 feet upwind of your house. And that's what these people had to endure. Our electeds, the Trumbull County Commissioners and the Weathersfield Township trustees, both of them wrote great letters to Halcon requesting these electric and natural gas frack pumps, and both of them were denied. And as for the residents of Westwood Lake, they were denied clean air. Okay, the Trumbull County Air Quality OEPA was called by the residents requesting air quality tests in the park. The Mahoning County Air Quality OEPA tests the air from the monitor located in Youngstown, 10 miles away. That's the best they can do, and I'm not kidding you. Now we're going to talk about nitrogen stimulation. Okay, after they frack the well, they let it sit for a little bit, and then they let the excess frack waste out. And if it doesn't quite have the pressure they want, they'll come back in with liquid nitrogen and pump that directly down the borehole. Okay? Nitrogen stimulation. Under the cover of darkness, Halcon stimulated the well at the frack by pumping liquid nitrogen down the borehole. They then released the nitrogen and all of the components from Utica Shale, benzene, toluene, etc., directly into the atmosphere. Now, nitrogen is actually 78% of the air we breathe, and that shouldn't be an issue. But this is in the borehole. This is coming out of the borehole. It's going to have methane, benzene, everything that is not good for people that's coming up. And these people are just going to let it go in the air. The next step, completion. This well is completed by opening the valves, sending the toxic radioactive frack waste into tanks to be transported to injection wells. A flare is lit to burn off bad gases. The flare stench is nasty. Most of the stench travels a few short feet downwind into Westwood Lake Mobile Home Park. A few days later, at 3:15 a.m., I received a call to come fast. Something is wrong. My 27-year-old car got me there in about 6 minutes. When I got there, this is what I found. Now, they said it was going to be 2 to 3 weeks. But this flare howled. It howled like this for over 3 months. And somehow we managed to get, what was his name?
Morris Gray.
Who?
Morris Gray.
Oh, Morris Gray from WKBN.
Come over.
He came down and he took a look at this, and he got on his cell phone, he called the radio station, and they played it right over the air. And within 15 minutes, it was shut down. And it had been going on for over 3 months. And Westwood Lake residents were waiting for 2015 in that green completion law would go into effect. This flaring would be all over. 2015 came. The Kibler flare was still lit and still stinking up the air. I called the federal EPA to find out why. Why is the flare still lit? Because they can. This is a picture of the green completions equipment at Kibler. This is exhaust from this equipment. It runs 24/7. That basically compresses and dehydrates the gases to help separate them. And I know from going out west and seeing some of these things, the older they get, the more they leak, and this is no great. This isn't good at all. And this is going to run 24/7 for the life of the well. But every now and then, that equipment fails, and when it fails, it could be 5:30 in the morning, or it could be time for you to get up anyway. But this is what you're going to get. And they're going to put up with this until the gas man comes out and fixes it. And I know in 2015, this has happened many, many times. What's that? All over again. Oh, you can't hear me? I'll talk to you later. And now we're going to go back to Vienna. Vienna, so far, they tried to get a frack pad. They tried to get a shale gas well, and just that one, the first one didn't quite work out. Then we're going to go to Avalon 1H. Again, the company's Halcon. The cement job is going to be Halliburton. What could possibly go wrong? Okay, this is the Halliburton job log for when they cemented the casing at this well site. First thing to look at is ODNR was not on scene to witness the cement, and they always tell us that they're always going to be there to make sure this is done correctly. And apparently he wasn't on this site. But at 7:56, they had an immediate pressure spike. They shut down. They discussed with the rig. Rig had us hooked into the wrong valve. Some sort of packer was in line. Result of pressure spike was cracked casing. This time it's production casing. At this time, with a little over 1 year of drilling in our area, both CNX and Halcon have experienced casing failures. Both companies are owned by BP. Both wells cemented by Halliburton. Okay, now we're going to go to Weathersfield Township, what's known as the AWMS injection well. And here's some fun facts. 1. American Water Management Services applied for this permit 1 week prior to the 4.0 Youngstown earthquake. 1 week prior, they applied for this permit. Then they had the 4.0. But even after the 4.0, American Water Management Services decided to proceed anyway. 2. All elected officials in Wethersfield and Niles banned injection wells. Our electeds there tried. I mean, they absolutely tried, and they're still trying. Not quite as hard as I'd like them to, but I'll be doing this presentation for them probably next week, and we'll see what we can do. But they tried. Number 3, remember the 7-mile injection-free zone from the Youngstown injection well? Tom Tomastic worked on permitting this well 7.1 miles away. 1/10 of a mile outside the zone, and Tom Tomastic thinks this is okay. What could possibly go wrong? 108 earthquakes.
That's what could go wrong.
108 earthquakes. This quake maker is right in the thick of Niles neighborhoods, just upwind of the new middle school, half mile from the new high school, 1/2 mile from beautiful brick and mortar downtown Niles, 1 mile from the Eastwood Mall, 7 schools and many brick churches, 2 miles from the Trumbull County Courthouse and thousands of residents with brick homes, only 2.8 miles from our Meander Dam. Buildings were damaged at the Meander Water Plant as a result of the Youngstown quakes, 8 miles away. Now we're 2.8 miles away from a quake maker. In September, I should say in September of 2014, ODNR closed the deep 8,000-foot injection well, the quake maker. AWMS appealed this decision and lost the appeal. The shallow well of 4,000 feet was allowed to continue operating. Currently, the ODNR has met with their counterparts from Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Colorado to try to regulate these earthquakes. So they're going to try to regulate these earthquakes. And I'm not kidding. And the thing is, states first. All these states have problems with earthquakes, and they're going to try to make it so that they can, if they can't inject, they're in big trouble. So they're doing everything they can to make sure this proceeds. And what they've come up with. This is the traffic light system. A green light, for quakes under 3.0, they continue pumping. For quakes 3.1 to 4.0, they reduce the pressure. They call ODNR and say, hey, we're only making little ones. And the red light, that quakes are greater than 4.0, they have to suspend their operations. They may not continue without ODNR's permission at that point. One of the earthquake specialists from Oklahoma that helped come up with this traffic light system is none other than Tom Tomastic. Remember he moved to Oklahoma? He is not done haunting Ohio. Now, let's suppose that ODNR allows American Water Management Services to resume operations at the deep injection well under this new traffic light system. Let's ponder things going wrong. Very wrong. Let's say a 5.2. Not only would there be great devastation to property and infrastructure, but there could be loss of life. If a 5.2 hits, that could take out Meander Dam. Not only would we miss our water supply, but the rushing wall of water, 80 foot high, will wash the entire south side of Niles down the Ohio River. Help prevent what could possibly go wrong. Write ODNR, write the governor, and all your electeds demanding that both of these wells be permanently closed and cemented shut. Will it work? Probably not. So be prepared to take your grievance to the street. If we have to, we gotta. Meander again. On March 18, 2015, a resident that lives along the bike path reported a stench that would appear to be diesel fuel bubbling up from Sulphur Run. OEPA responds. The OEPA did a great job cleaning up the Lupo spill in Youngstown. We should be very happy with the OEPA and the way they use our tax dollars, because they use our tax dollars wisely. What they did with the Lupo well, the cleanup was stellar. I mean, they came here and showed us, and it was impressive. So, you know, as far as that Lupo spill, thumbs up, OEPA. As you can see, the Sulphur Run spill started at the pilot truck stop at Route 46 and 80. Sulphur Run is the closest tributary to the dam and processing plant. Here's where it goes in, and here's the dam and processing plant. This spill is really critical. Thank heavens we have the OEPA. I am sure this will be investigated thoroughly. Diana, again, one day after the Sulphur Run spill was reported, on Thursday, March 19, 2015, a Vienna resident smelled bad odors in their backyard and around their pond. They called ODNR and OEPA to report it. They were both told the same thing. This was a cold winter and ice may have killed the fish. Both agencies were told they were very close to KDA. Call us back in a week if it gets any worse. Only one day. This happened one day after the Sulphur Run spill. On Thursday, March 26th, the resident called both again to tell them that it was worse. They were told someone would be out to check it. On Thursday, April 2nd, after 2 weeks of inaction from our state protectors, Frackfree Mahoning was called. We were there within an hour.
Yay! Yay.
Okay, upon arrival, we knew there was a serious problem here as soon as we opened the car doors. The stench was terrible. We took a few pictures. The residents were informed that their best defense was the media, and they gave us permission to alert the media. This is what this spill looked like. This area here is the KDA injection well, and this spill somehow went under the road through a culvert and into this wetlands. And as you can see, it doesn't look very healthy now. Then I went back to this small pond. And by the way, this is a home. People live here. And there's their pond. And they're dead fish and dead turtles. Okay, these then went to the central wetlands. This is a big spill. Okay, these wetlands were dammed up and flooded so that the oil could be vacuumed off because oil floats. So they're just going to float the oil up and suck it off the top and call it a day. But in this case, a good 3 months. This is the second pond, and you can see what's on that. Again, many did fish and animals. Local jobs, no thanks. These workers were transported all the way from Georgia to do the dirtiest of the cleanup work, like bagging soiled booms and dead animals. These guys got the dirtiest of the dirty. On Saturday, April 4th, Ohio State Rep. Sean O'Brien went on tour with the cleanup rep, and OEPA's on-scene coordinator, Kurt Collar. Okay, this Saturday, Frackfree Mahoning Valley, we were out there in force. I think it was me, Mark, Diana, Maria, Suzanne. We had this place covered. And Doug. Okay. But anyway, Mark and I, we headed towards the back of the property, the third pond, and we met up with Sean O'Brien and Kurt Collar. And right in front of Sean O'Brien, I asked Kurt, you are going to test the spilled materials, right? You know, the stuff that's contaminating the earth and the soil and the water. That stuff, we ought to know what it is. Kurt answered, no. There's no reason to test it. It is like oil. We can smell it, and you can see it right there, as he pointed to the polluted pond. I'm not kidding. And since I did it in front of Sean O'Brien, since I had this argument in front of Sean, Kurt got a little angry, and that's him up here kind of going away. On Monday, April 6th, Vienna Township trustees organized a community town hall meeting with Vienna residents, ODNR, OEPA, and county electeds. Surprise, they are going to test. The residents were quite angry. For once, I was not the only one getting angry. Kurt Collar, the guy who's not going to test, in the next video I'm going to show you, listen carefully, because he's going to tell you that this is an oil material. The testing will confirm that. Actually, it says Sunday, but it was Monday. There's Kurt Collar.
Are local wells safe to drink the water from?
Right now, again, based on what we know and all the preliminary data, the aquifer should not be intact. We have a spill, drainage valves carried to the surface, oil floats. This is an oil material. The testing will confirm. Right now, again, based on what we know and all the preliminary data, the aquifer should not be intact. We have a spill, drainage valves carried to the surface, oil floats. This is an oil material. The testing will confirm. This oil floats. This is an oil material. The testing will confirm.
Near the end of that meeting, I asked a question of the OEPA air quality person. And basically, here's what I said. I said, in Lordstown, that's Kiblerwell, the residents of Westwood Lake, living downwind of the shale gas stench, asked the OEPA to monitor air quality in the park. They were told the air would be monitored from the OEPA equipment in Youngstown, almost 9 miles away. The KDA spill has a terrible stench. Will the OEPA monitor the air at this spill from the same equipment 8 miles away? She answered yes and took out the door. She was gone. We asked for the results of the tests, and basically this is what we got. We received these 3 pages. Please notice that the sample was taken April 9th, 2015, 10 days after the cleanup commenced. So instead of going and getting your samples to know what you're cleaning up, you know, from day one, they cleaned up and then went and got the samples. I would have little faith in testing for these chemicals 10 days after cleanup began. But at least they tested for radiation. See Norm up here? But we're going to have to wait a while longer for that report. And this is the 3rd page of that report. VOCs and B-techs were tested for. Here they are. And these numbers look off the charts, but they're going to be when they're in oil. This report did nothing but prove Kurt Collar right. This is oil. Well, it proved Kurt Collar was right saying that oil was in it. But it absolutely does not prove that this was not frack wood. It just proved it was light oil. Should we accept that? No. Now what about the radioactivity report? Now we got it. When we first got it, I was like shocked because they had hot spots listed on it. I thought, wow, this will prove the high radioactivity that we've been telling people they're going to get out of this thing. Well, KDA began cleanup 6 days prior to Hall being on scene. That's what this little thing here says. Okay? So KDA's been doing the cleanup before they even hired Hall, and Hall is the company that is going to do the testing. Not the OEPA, not the Ohio Department of Health. This is a company that was hired by KDA to do cleanup. And in there, this is what there's like, they made a grid over top of the injection well. And every grid, they divided up into about 6 feet, and they would walk around, I guess, with a Geiger counter and record the readings. And here, these are the hotspots of 20,000, 48,000. These are clicks. I guess the more radiation, the quicker it clicks. So the hotspots of 50K. But this is grid 75. Here's what it looks like when you put them all together. This is the injection well. When you overlay this over this, here's grid 75 right down here. But what I want you to know, every page that they had, they would have a drawing of where it was dug out. And I was able to go to the grid with these drawings and draw out over the entire grid what was dug out. And that's what we have here. This entire area was all dug out. This entire area was all dug out. And there's a little bit of stuff being dug out here. So the chemicals were removed, the soil was removed. But let's take a little bit of a closer look. The hotspots are all outside every hotspot you have here are outside the places they excavated. Okay? Over here. Anyway, the thing to notice, or the thing to be aware of, when they went around and they did this test right here, they did it 6 weeks. 6 weeks after the cleanup had begun. Well, what do you think they're going to get? And basically, this report does not tell us and should not, I think they gave it to us making us think that, boy, they got us now, but they knew we did, they knew we were going to think this was really bad, and here it's not real, it's not too bad at all, but it basically shows where they didn't clean it up so good. So they got to go back here and do a little scrubbing, go here and do a little scrubbing, take care of all this, and then bingo, that'll be dandy dandy new. But where is everything? Where's the dirt they took away? Did they test that? Not only that, but Dr. Julie Weatherington Rice presented here, presented at 2 of Dr. Ray's lecture series. Dr. Rice is a state radiological expert in charge of controlling and measuring radioactivity in landfill leachate for the state of Ohio. She knows what she's talking about with radioactivity. And she says, Ohio is using the wrong test. Ohio test numbers are very low. The 21-day whole bismuth test is what Ohio should be using. And that's a little bit louder. Ohio is using the wrong test. Ohio test numbers are very low. The 21-day whole bismuth test is what Ohio should be using. And Dr. Rice's lecture is on YouTube, and I'm sure we can get it for you if you want to see it, and everybody should. Okay, conclusions of the KDA spill and cleanup. Testing should have occurred day 1, not day 9 or week 6 after the cleanup commenced. Little soil was excavated from the neighbor's property with no contaminant testing that we know of. OEPA, Mahoning Trumbull air quality control should be scrubbed clean out of the counties. And taxpayers should probably fit the bill to do independent testing. If the people that are supposed to be protecting our health and safety aren't doing it, we need to find a way to do it ourselves. Number 4, you better take another look, we better take another look at the sulfur run. We assumed that the OEPA test, that they tested the contaminant, this going into meander, you better know they tested it. Okay, I sent a public information request to the OEPA requesting the complete cleanup record of the sulfur run spill, including all tests and results of those tests. I received a sheet of photos of the cleanup and a 24-page investigation report. Okay, let's dig into it. This is the front of the report. Basically what happened was a landowner that lives on Sulphur Run called the fire department because he thought there was diesel fuel bubbling up in the creek. And that happened 3/18, one day before the Sulphur Run, or the KDA spill was reported by the neighbors. It just took 2 weeks to get out there and do anything about it. Okay. Here's a closer look. The OEPA OSC, that's the on-scene coordinator, Wade Bassler, or Balser, okay? He asked the Youngstown fire chief to notify MVSD, Meander Water, of the diesel fuel impact of Sulphur Run. So, right here, he asked him to do it. He asked him to go notify Mahoning Valley Sanitary District, Meander Water. I would think that I'd want to know what was going on from the Ohio EPA. But anyway, the assistant fire chief went down and told him it was diesel fuel. Distance of 0.4 miles from the drinking water intake. The reservoir, this is unbelievable here. Right down here, it says, the reservoir is frozen over with no visible impact. And Mrs. Hammer's in charge of the drinking and groundwater for the Ohio EPA. Mrs. Hammer requested MVSD to test the water in 3 places. Now, MVSD heard from the assistant fire chief that diesel fuel, so what are they going to test for? Diesel fuel. VOCs were tested for because that's what they thought the problem was. The VOC test results at small amounts yet prove diesel fuel. One entry point indicates no unusual VOT. Oh yeah, this. Hey Lynn, pay attention here. One entry point indicates no unusual VOC detected. I say unusual. This is from MVSD. Okay. I say, or actually Ray Boswell wrote this, but he's reading the report from MVSD. Okay, I say unusual because the VOCs detected are typical of disinfection byproducts formed when drinking water is chlorinated and has nothing to do with the pilot spill. Question, did they test for bromides? I have not yet found any test. They've never sent me anything saying they did. Okay, this okay, Wade Boss, right here on one of the sumps, on 415, Wade Balser observed green, yellow fuel in the sump. Okay, green, and that's on April 15th. At the Catskill recovery sump within the sump, Wade Balser observed a greenish product fuel. Okay, so from 415 to 520, it went from green to greenish. Too bad they did not perform a testish. Here's my conclusion. MVSD can no longer trust that the OEPA will test every spill that is in our swamp area, and MVSD must test independently, and we as taxpayers ought to make sure that happens. Number 2, repeat number 1. It has become apparent that the OEPA has no problem finding the green acceptable. Cha-ching. Okay, now, over to Liberty. This is Iron Eagle this is the Iron Eagle frac tank cleaners. Remember Ben Luco and the D&L million-gallon toxic frac waste intentional dumping into a storm drain that went into the Mahoning River? After all that trouble, Ben sold his Iron Eagle toxic frac tank cleaning business to his ex-wife. Way to protect your assets, Ben. Here's an aerial view of Iron Eagle. This is the tank cleaning area. This is Uptown Pizza. Right here is Uptown Pizza.
Right, just
Here's
north
the
of
ice factory
Gypsy.
drain. These are all homes. These are all homes, and this over here is the playground. These toxins can become airborne at the site. And where does the dirty water go? Who in their right mind will permit this thing so close to home? It's just plain carelessness. It's all about the money. Iron Eagle fracking, what could possibly go wrong? So far, we've blocked out nothing that we know of. But, time will tell. Okay, 4 years of shale gas development in Trumbull County. How's it going? To conclude, I took part in the first-time scientific study of air emissions from shale gas wells and infrastructure. This study took part in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Colorado, Wyoming, Arkansas, and Texas. I traveled to Conway and Guy, Arkansas, and to Houston, Texas. I met and became friends with John Fenton of Pavilion, Wyoming. You may recognize him from the documentary Gasland. I will make this presentation available on the web as soon as possible, along with the links to the study called Warning Signs. While in Texas, I asked John Fenton to say a few words of warning to the people of Northeast Ohio. Let's give John Fenton a listen.
Pavilion, Wyoming is a small ranching community that sits on the east side of the Rocky Mountains. It's very remote, very unique place that's still kind of part of the Wild West. But we've seen terrible impacts from the drilling and fracking of gas wells in our area. It's destroyed our water, it's contaminated our air. It's made it very difficult for us to carry on with the way of life that's gone on there for over 100 years. And I would really encourage folks there in Northeast Ohio to really take a close look at what's going on before they agree to anything, because once this is done, it's not undoable. You can't go back and undrill a gas well or unpollute water, and a brief period of monetary gain could cost you your home for the rest of your lives and the rest of your children's lives, and it could cost you the unique atmosphere and character and charm and culture that you have in that area. Just be sure that what you're doing is for the betterment of the community in the future and not for the dollars in your pocket for a short amount of time.
Thank you, John.
We've seen terrible impacts from the drilling and fracking of gas wells in our areas. Destroyed our water. It's contaminated our air. It's made it very difficult for us to carry on with the way of life that's gone on there for over 100 years. And I would really encourage folks there in Northeast Ohio to really take a close look at what's going on before they agree to anything, because once this is done, it's not undoable. You can't go back and undrill a gas well or unpollute water, and a brief period of monetary gain could cost you your home for the rest of your lives and the rest of your children's lives, and it could cost you the unique atmosphere and character and charm and culture that you have in that area. Just be sure that what you're doing is for the betterment of the community in the future and not $30 in your pocket for a short amount of time.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
I'm sure John will be happy to answer questions. Susan, why don't you turn it off and turn it back on so we have a separate file.